Louise Bedford here, your host of the Talking Trading podcast. This week on Talking Trading, you're going to hear a conversation that I had with Cheyne Kupfer. Cheyne has his own YouTube channel, and we talked in depth about some of the things that are going to shock you about the behavioural finance industry. Plus, you're going to find out why it's really important that you develop some of the core skills that make traders trade like pros. And I'll also show you why it's essential that you use a medium-term time frame in addition to a short-term time horizon. We cover so many topics. I loved this conversation with Cheyne. I'm going to hand it over to him right now.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So it's been ages since I've done one of these interviews for the channel, and I'm so excited because, see, I started reading a lot of trading books. I've always read a lot of trading books, and I came across what's been my favorite book in absolutely years, and that was Louise's Bedford's Trading Secrets. And, you know, naturally you send out a message. No author ever replies. I've sent out hundreds of messages, but she did. Welcome to the show.
So good to see you. It's very exciting to be on your show. You're doing great things here.
Cheers. So before we get started, the big question for the channel, the big off-card question, what is your spirit animal?
Look, I haven't actually had a big think about my spirit animal, but I really do enjoy those videos of those little blind mole rats that come out and they've had the skin grow over their eyes and they come out into the sunshine and then they go back into their little hole. So why do I like that? Firstly, they're using more than one sense, which I think is very important. Secondly, they had a sense that they had initially because they actually had skin grow over their eyes and they chose to not use that sense, which shows a remarkable ability to adapt. That ability to adapt is what I'm hoping to encourage in my own behaviour.
Right, that's a first for the channel. I love that. Most people always pick a lion or a wolf or something, but that's actually original. I love it.
People pick the pretty animals. They're the ones who get the donations as well when they're endangered. I think it's good to sometimes look past the exterior.
Yeah, fair. Well, mole rats are very resourceful.
They really are. Yeah.
So what would you say to the person that doesn't take action? Like, you've seen these traders 100 times. They sit there in front of the computer, they see the TA, and then at the last minute they go, oh no, and then entry's gone and they curse themselves for the next 3 days.
It is a big area. It is even an area with behavioural finance experts. You know that is my background. So it is fascinating to me to hear how some of my colleagues do not trade. So I struggle with that. If you're a behavioural finance expert and you're not trading, then I don't believe you're actually giving very pure advice. You're giving theoretical advice, but if you haven't felt it in yourself, that is a problem. Look, if you're not trading, there is probably a reason. If you've got a written trading plan, you have been looking at the markets and you're interested in charts, then there is probably some sort of sticking point and you need to find out what that sticking point is, or, and this is something everybody can do, lower your position size until it doesn't hurt anymore. Maybe you're going to go for one contract, which will make you no money. We know that. But what it will do is get you into the habit of doing those processes. So without those processes, you're going to feel uncomfortable every single time you trade. One of the ways they teach day traders in the hedge funds in the US to trade, because they have to have so much action going on, is they make them do 50 trades a day and they don't look at their results for the first week. So it's that continuation of activity. Do it again and again and again. Eventually it will become comfortable. You will down regulate because that comfort leads to your physiology calming down, and you'll be able to do it. So if you're not trading and you're listening to this and you have already been listening to these videos because it's such a great resource, you really need to lower your position size so that it doesn't hurt as much. Once you've got into the habit, then sure, increase your position size to your usual position risk level.
Fantastic. 50 trades. I do wonder how they find so many. Like, at that point, are they just spamming the sell and buy button, or are they actually basing it off proper TA or something?
Yeah, I think this is activity. This is more to get them into the habit of placing the trades, getting the orders done, and not feeling judged. Often our own ego is wrapped up in every trade we do. We call this narrow focus. So this narrow focus is where so many people get into trouble. So what they're trying to do with these day traders, I believe, is extend out their focus and make it a broad focus, which is what we should all be doing. We should be looking at our portfolio rather than looking at each individual trade. I was talking to Tom Barso the other day, who we know is in the second Market Wizards book by Jack Schwager. Tom just has a new book out, actually, The All-Weather Trader. He's a fantastic individual. We were talking about the importance of data points. Now, he's from an engineering background, and he looks at all of his trades, maybe there's 1,000 trades, as each separate data point. So if you have one data point that is an outlier because you didn't do a good job, then in the overall scheme of things, with that broad focus, it won't actually matter. So we do have to look at our own behaviour and see what we can learn from that, and extend our education as well, so that we have a level of comfort with making mistakes. We all make mistakes. Gosh, I bet you I've made more than the average trader. That's how I've learned.
It's like that old analogy where Babe Ruth, the famous baseball player, he missed more strikes than anyone
That's
ever.
it. Yeah, yeah. And if he let that get to him, if he let that be an identity threat to his actual persona, that is where I think we're more likely to give up. And as traders, we have to be aware of that. There are so many identity threats to us. There are blows coming in left and right. This is where we do need accountability partners. We need support mechanisms, and we need to work out when we are going to quit. So I've got in my trading plan that I'm only allowed to quit after I have 3 winning trades. So if you think about it, what we've got here is a recipe for disaster with traders that are making losses, because they're making losses, they're starting to feel unworthy, they're starting to think that they can never do it. They're starting to think that they, in their own heart, they are a loser, rather than the trades that they are making are creating losses. Hmm.
It's an important distinction to draw.
Mm, mm. So have you got I'm going to quiz you now because this is what I do. Have you got a part in your own trading plan that tells you when you can stop trading?
Yes, I have a money management section. Basically, it dictates when I lose 2 trades consecutively over 2 sessions, then I have to sleep before I'm allowed to trade again. And if I lose 6 trades in a week, I'm barred from trading for a 5-day period.
Ah, see, this is good too. And I would like you to put that into an if-then statement. So you've just about got that actually in what you've got here. If-then statements are brilliant because they're from the weight loss industry. If the evil donut bringer at work brings around a tray of donuts, then I will look them in the eye and say, thank you so much, but I really don't feel like one. So you've thought about that in advance. That if then statement can transfer directly to traders. So if, and I'm going to use that broad focus rather than the narrow focus, if I lose 25% or more of my capital, then I will stop entering new positions. I will allow my other positions to run to their stop, and I would consult a higher authority. Now, that higher authority might be somebody that is your accountability buddy as a trader. It might be your mentor. It might be somebody who's actually volunteered for that role. I think I'm thousands of people's accountability partner with this, to be open with you. So that is your point of no return, your area that you know is becoming very scary for you, because we know if we lose 25% of our money, we must make 33.3% back just to break even. That's actually the tipping point for so many people. They keep on trading past that 25% and they end up in deep trouble. So if you can stop it before that actual tipping point sets in for you, you'll be in a much better position.
Right, right. 25%, that seems like that is a massive drawdown.
It is.
That begs the question, what is your biggest drawdown since being a professional?
Well, it's under 25% in terms of before I sought help. My accountability partner was the Dr. Harry Stanton, the magnificent late great Dr. Harry Stanton. I did have to call him at one stage because I had lost, because I can tell you, Futurus, damn it, that was the one. I'd got my position size big and it was too big, but luckily it was still under, as a stock, it was under that 25% Kelly principle that guides me, but it got close enough for me to actually be shocked. So I stopped entering new positions. I consulted my accountability partner and my trading mentor in terms of trading psychology. He didn't really do specifics, but in terms of psychology, and that really did help me. Yeah, so you've got to watch your drawdowns for sure.
100%. So on a day-to-day with the markets, what's your schedule?
Look, I'm a weekly trader now. I have traded in the past on very short time increments, and I don't really enjoy that where I'm at. I think that a lot of people love it. I know that you're more short-term based for your trading and that works for you. That's great. But my sweet spot is weekly charts. So on a weekend, I'll look at all of my trading plan entries based on the algorithm that I put into my charting package. It comes out with a short list. I cut down on that short list. I look at my money management. I make sure that I'm using the right portfolio heat so that I'm not entering too many new positions. And I do think that is something that people miss too. That portfolio heat concept is so important, that you're not entering too many new positions at once. And then I put either auto stops where I've moved my auto stop, enter into new positions on a Monday after 11 o'clock, leave them.
Yeah, right. Fantastic. That actually sounds so much more relaxed.
Do you know the weird thing is as well, is I thought that the money was in short-term trading because I've written the book on candlesticks, The Secret of Candlestick Charting. So of course, short-term trading is of appeal to me, just that instant appeal. But I've actually made more money since stepping back and using a medium-term view.
Right.
Yeah.
That's absolutely crazy. But surely with larger time frames, you're going to need a larger capital base to trade from, right?
Well, look, I think it is a situation that also it's life stage where I thought from the early days that the idea was activity. So that you had to constantly be in the market, so that you were constantly on top of it, and that you were breathing over these little baby shares. Please grow, grow like plants. But actually, in terms of the way that it's gone for me, and also following that concept, there are no old, bold traders. I've become much more conservative as time has gone on, and I'm very much more money management focused and risk averse than perhaps most people would believe, because I think that a lot of people think that we're cowboys and that we gamble. I don't do that at all. It is very specific, very measured, and I don't put that much time into it now. Initially, I mean, gosh, you've got to separate out education from the actual trading. With education, sure, I'm still reading books and I'm still interested in trading psychology and I'm still reading research papers to try and develop my mind. I always think unless we hit a certain level of our development, our bank account will always lag behind. So I want to make sure that my development keeps going up and up so that my bank account keeps on growing, even though there's a lag there. I don't think you necessarily have to short-term trade to be an exceptional trader.
I tend to agree with you 100%. Yeah. Short terms, I find a lot of people bring themselves undone because it happens far quicker and they bring out that psychology element pretty quickly, don't they?
So true, so true. That speed of transaction is the thing that fouls people up, because one of the things I think we all need to do as traders is to bring in a pause rather than that instant cue and then action. And some people might know that as a trigger. I prefer to use the word cue because it's less emotionally charged. So once you have a cue, we think we instantly have to react. I would actually like you to broaden out your time frame between cue and action. Just make that bridge a little bit longer, because in that time of pause, that is where we can actually receive the signals from our subconscious that those signals are telling us, based on our experience and based on what we've read, some amazing truths. And by that instant action, we're not giving ourselves time to assimilate those signals. A lot of the traders, because I've trained so many traders over the years, a lot of the traders who have brain injuries, that has actually been an obvious idea for them, because they're trying to recover from a situation where the connections aren't quite as strong. So broadening that out has actually really helped them. But in the general public, I think that's what we need to do as well. We need to not be that instant reaction. We need to stop, breathe, think, and then act. And day trading, short-term time frames, that makes it much more difficult to have that interim.
Really, really does. So if I was to ask you what your why is, what would it be?
Mm. There's a few layers to this question, isn't there? Look, one of the things I think we all need to do is become very consistent with our values and our actions. So before I go through my why, I'll just go one step further back to values. So my main three values is love, nurture, inspiration. All right. So if something is not involving one or more of those values, I will say no. So with your situation, the reason why I said yes to you is because you're aiming to inspire others, and I want to feed that. I want to, I guess, give you permission to continue doing that with my encouragement. And that's why I said yes, because it feeds into my values. So in terms of mission, in terms of my why, I went to a seminar when I was 19, and I remember the people on stage. It's funny, the company went out of business even though they're a wealth creation company. We won't go there. So it was Hudson's Research, if anybody was back then interested. So they were talking about property, the share market, and business. And they said you need a combination of those three, or at least one, to be able to be exceptional. And with property, the reason why that company wasn't saying property is because you can't sell off one room. And I went, ooh, that's a really good point. Whereas in the share market, you can sell off a partial package. So they got us to write our mission statement, and almost word for word today is the one that I use. And a big part of it is to inspire others to develop their true energy. All right. Now, I didn't realize at that time what I was meaning was wealth, and lead by example. Now, that guides me. So without that mission statement, I would not have as much time in the day because I'd be saying yes to everything. I'm an optimistic person. I'll help you, I'll help you, I'll help you. Now, with that mission statement, everything that doesn't correspond to my values and to that mission, I get to say no to, which has freed me up a lot.
Of course, you've got to be able to say no.
Yeah.
What's your biggest success in life? Doesn't have to be trading related, but just biggest success.
My biggest success. I know this is not trading related, but I want to say that I married my best friend. So that has been amazing for me. My husband, Chris, I met him when I was 20, and of course it's a Chris, just by the way, and we are really close, and that I think has just been a cushioning effect for all of the other things that have gone well and badly in my life. In terms of trading, my biggest success was actually my loss, a big loss that I made. It was more of a potential loss. The thing that I did was I wrote put options underneath an index, and I wrote so many that if it had have gone wrong, it would have bankrupted me. And that, oh my gosh, that was a huge lesson for me. So I managed to finally work it out and close it out and then never do it again. So that probably would have been my biggest lesson in the markets, to always be aware of your risk. Always think, if the sky is going to fall in, what is the worst thing that can happen? And I think that one freak out that I had was the thing that held me in good stead, to understand risk and to make sure that I never, ever, ever do that again.
That's fantastic. Well, I mean, that would have been scary. How did it feel in that moment? Like, how long between action to, oh God, was there? Like, did you know straight away or?
Oh my gosh. So what happened was, this is when I'm a full-time trader as well. So I just hadn't quite pieced it all together. I went, wow, it's such a bargain, and everything had lined up with it implied and the historic volatility, and it was just, oh my gosh. So it was like a little bit of a, ooh, I can feel that greed. So I literally went, I've just made so much money, and we know we haven't made money in the options market until it's closed, okay? But in my mind, I'm like, that's my money. So I literally went out shopping. I bought items with this money that I didn't have. And as I was handing over the credit card for one of these purchases, I suddenly went, what happens if everything goes wrong? And I pulled the credit card back and I went out of the store and I hyperventilated. I'm like, oh my gosh, $800,000, that's what it would have been in terms of exposure, which I couldn't afford back then. No way. I'm like, this is bad. So I drove home in a blur. I was driving like a crazy woman to get to the computer. I mean, these days it's so different because you can do it all from the phone, but to get back to the computer so I could cancel the order. And I did cancel the order, and then I vomited. Yeah, pleasant. Hey, so we learn from these things. I think it's a good lesson.
Yeah, definitely. One of those lessons you surely don't forget. Like, that's risk management hammered into your subconscious.
That's it. Sometimes we need that. That one trial learning. I mean, from a psychology point of view, that is just one of the purest ways to learn. And there is another concept that's related. It's called neurological shock. Now, with neurological shock, what that means is that we're more primed to learn during periods of neurological shock. Now, why would this happen from an evolutionary perspective? The two main times with neurological shock are when you have a baby and when you fall in love. Now, there are more times than that, especially for the modern person. But if you think of those two times, when you have a baby, it's really important that you learn the lessons fast to keep that baby alive. When you're in love, it's so important that you cement who this person is, why you want to be with them, what's important to them, so that you've got a chance of breeding success, because of course that's biologically what we're designed to do. From a very evolutionary perspective, that is probably the key directive there. So when we're looking at those type of big shocks in our life, just remember that also has post-traumatic growth associated with that. We don't just have post-traumatic stress where we loop on it, we dream about it, we have flashbacks. We also have the opportunity for post-traumatic growth, and that's when we assign meaning to the event. So in that situation with the News Corp options, the meaning that that had for me was so significant, it drummed it into my own subconscious so that every time now, if I'm feeling that greed, if I'm feeling like this can't go wrong, if I'm feeling like what a moron on the other side of the trade, okay, because that's my real tell, who would do that? What a moron, right? Maybe they've seen something that I haven't. Maybe I just need to have that pause to think about it before I act and before I put on that order and before I make that decision that could have a long lasting impact on my life.
There's always someone on the other side and they always see something, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. We have to realize that they're not always the nincompoop that we think they are.
Yeah, it's a good lens to look through trades. Like the market's not just something faceless, you're actively against someone on another position.
That's it. That's it. I think too often we get into a rhythm with this where we are thinking that we are a god. If we've had a few wins, if it has been easy money for us, I'm going to put that in inverted commas because nothing's ever truly easy money, but that is setting us up for the potential to make a really big error. One of my biggest mistakes, I had 9 winning option trades on BHP. So it was like I was one with the market. It was incredible. It was in a channel like going up with higher highs and higher lows. It was like a textbook example. And I went long, I went short, I went long, I went short 9 times in a row. It was just like some little jackpot. And then the next trade I made, I blew it, all of that money and more. So that pride before a fall is very relevant for traders.
Huh, so to clarify on that trade, you were just upping your risk every single trade until you got to the end and it was at its largest point and that just took the remaining profit.
No, it was a different trade. BHP, it didn't treat me badly at all for those 9 trades. It just didn't provide another signal, so I didn't go in. But by then, I thought I could do no wrong.
10% risk, 30% risk, one trade, go.
It's when our ego grows, I think it makes us very vulnerable to a big life lesson.
Definitely. And then you have that ego death and you have to come back to self and you're like, all right, I'm back to me.
That's
Oh,
it. That's it. It's a big equilibrium shift, isn't it? We really do want to stay on that middle fulcrum of the seesaw. We don't want to be so confident that we're overconfident, like the Brad Barber and Terence O'Dean studies. They show that overconfidence actually depletes your performance. But you don't want to be underconfident either, because then you're going against the Harbour 2011 study that says that underconfident people are not assessing risk appropriately. So we need to be in that middle fulcrum where we are balanced, we are focused on the future but not too much. We're focused on the now but not so much that we neglect the future. We need a Goldilocks zone, that total middle ground where we're not over the top, we're not underinflated, we're just right.
on that subject, is there something you do before you look at your charts or interact with the markets that keeps you in that Goldilocks zone?
Yes, yes, that is a really good point. I've got a little metal robot that has got like a little straight across mouth. So he's not happy, he's not sad. And I like mechanical trading. I like the thought that I can be binary. It's either yes or it's no, it's 0 or it's 1. So my little robot is Stockbot. And before I trade, I hold a little Stockbot in my hand and I look at him and I am willing him to impart his wisdom to me. Then I pop him on the shelf and I trade.
I love that. That is the most original thing I've ever heard from any trader.
Oh, actually, one other aspect related to that, which I've related as well, is sometimes if we can develop more sensory awareness, we can cement a lesson more quickly. So if you can have it inputted for other angles, basically, you can actually get a habit and it can be quick. So one of the things that I do when I can feel that feeling where that interoception where I can feel my stomach turn over. It's like things are going badly or things are going really well, and I can start to feel that this is not equilibrium. I've actually got a sound effects machine, and it makes, and I'm sure that you'll know the the Netflix sound, but you know the
Yep.
da-dum sound,
Yeah.
yeah, is I have paired that sound effect with that feeling of my stomach rolling over and an action, and that action is to sit back from my computer. So I hear, I'll see if I can sequence it for you. I feel my stomach turn over. I now don't have to push the sound effects machine. I can hear it in my head. Da-dong. And then my action is to push back so that I'm away from my computer and I can't touch the keyboard. I'm so far back I can't reach. Now that has been a brilliant set of triggers for me. I get the cue. I understand that things are not in equilibrium. I hear the sound, which reinforces the action, and then I have a chance of maintaining that space.
Right, right. So it's a bit of neuro-linguistic programming style of action.
Yeah, yeah, get those multiple inputs, and then you've got a chance of being able to be sane.
Just a chance. As a trader, we'll never truly be sane.
No, no, we need to have a little bit of flamboyance about us, that's for sure.
So if you could go back to yourself at the very start, that first trade, that hot tip, what would be the wisdom or the most important part of wisdom you would impart to yourself back then?
It'll get better.
Just that saying, you wouldn't give yourself anything else?
I found my initial trades a couple of years ago. It was so funny because some of those companies don't even exist. Ross Mining was the first trade that I did, and Qantas was another trade. And I found it written up and the newspaper clipping because I needed to get my data from somewhere. Yeah, this is how long ago, with all the share prices. So all the share prices in the newspaper, and they had the option prices later on as well, and that's how I got my data to begin with. And I just feel that clever you, Louise, for jumping forward when you had no idea what you were doing. I mean, really, to some extent, I was such a babe in the woods because I didn't have any knowledge at all. But it was so soul destroying to begin with because I thought everybody made money in this and I wasn't making money. So, yeah, it'll get better.
Awesome. Awesome. I know at least six of my listeners need to hear that right now. And watching this, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
All right. If you never discovered trading and you never developed that interest, that hunger, what would you be doing instead?
Oh gosh. So I had a corporate career way back when. So I would probably have had to find a corporate job again, which would have just been soul destroying. So I haven't worked since 1995. So I don't know. I think I'd struggle in an actual job now because I have afternoon sleeps and I go to the gym a lot, and I see a lot of people just socially just for a cuppa, and I don't think corporate jobs let you do any of those things unless I'm wrong.
I don't think they do. Hey, I really
No, no. I find that to be quite strange that you can't go on your own time frame and your own timetable. Like I'm such a morning person. I'm so good in the morning and I'm so lousy in the evening that each of my five books that I've written, they were all written between like 5 a.m. and 11 a.m. So that to me is my prime time. But then those businesses probably aren't open at 5 a.m. So I'd be stuffed. I don't know what I'd do.
Fair call, fair call. Well, you found it. So, what do you love most about your life?
Probably that. I've got flexibility. I call the shots. I'm the breadwinner for my family. I love that I've got time with my children, which will never ever be able to get back again. Once they're past a certain age, they're not going to want to hang out with you unless you've spent time with them early. So both of my kids are so happy to have me as a part of their life. I've got a 15-year-old and a 20-year-old, and what a blessing that is. So having that and also being in a position where I've been able to help so many people, that has been so personally fulfilling and so in line with what that early 20-year-old putting on her first trades would have hoped for. It would have blown her head off if she had have seen what the future was. And all of those times I wanted to quit, it wouldn't have actually been a problem. I would have gone, yeah, there's better things around the corner. What are you thinking? It's too early to quit. You know, I nearly quit this many, 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 many times. So, yeah, hanging on in there is really important.
Love that mindset. So, in the future, what are you most excited about? What's coming up that you're just really keen for?
Look, I know this is a little topical, but I'm loving AI. Oh, that is just so interesting to me. I'm already using it. I find that you do need a fair bit of knowledge so that it doesn't lead you astray. But I'm just having the best time with AI. So I'm developing an AI stock bot. So you know my little my little robot, my little metal robot that's like my soothing presence before I trade. I'm developing an AI stock bot. So that to me is just so much fun. I know it's not technically to do with something that's exciting me about the markets because it is a little bit separate, but I think the more that we can do to keep us passionate and excited about life, the better, no matter where that comes from. The way we do one thing translates into the way we do everything. So if you can be excited in one area, you'll probably be more likely to have that seed of that bubble of excitement translate into other areas of your life.
Fantastic. No, I agree 100%. So, what is the biggest lesson you've ever picked up from any mentor you've ever had?
Hmm. I'm not sure where this came from. It might have been Harry Stanton, but I don't know. But to know and not to do is not to know. So I'll translate. Don't criticize people unless you're in the field and you're doing what they're doing.
I absolutely love that. Full disclosure, I'm going to steal that for my socials.
It's
It'll
good,
probably be
isn't
up
it? It is a
after.
good one. Yeah, it's also it's broad because I mean this has been something that's special to me for many, many years. It's not just from a criticism point of view, it's also that for yourself, unless you're in the field, unless you're actually an action person and you're doing it, you're never really going to learn. You're never really going to know. That's why I think when we were talking about those behavioral finance experts that don't actually trade, my thought bubble is shame on them. If they are tutoring, mentoring, caring for a group of traders and they're not in the arena, then they have no place to be able to give us any advice at all. I just find it to be quite shocking that somebody would talk about the things that they are not personally actually doing. It is very lacking in integrity. So that is a decent quote, I think.
Really is, really is. Well, that brings us to the end of the time we have today, Louise. But thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been absolutely amazing having you here.
Oh, look, it's just been a blast. I have loved it. And keep doing the good work that you're doing because there is so much to be said for that continual immersion. And I would like to stay in touch with your people. If anybody listening would like to have my trading plan template because you like the angles that I've gone in on in this interview, come to tradinggame.com and download my free trading plan template. Now, that's my main website, tradinggame.com.au. But the other thing that you can do is come onto my podcast website, talkingtrading.com.au, where I think that this type of interview is just ideal because it's an example as to what we can put on our shows, isn't it? But Talking Trading, I interview successful traders, market wizards. I give you expert trading tactics, and I help you develop the mindset of an exceptional trader. So tradinggame.com.au and my podcast, talkingtrading.com.au.